before we started, I had this overwhelming urge to lean forward. Hello. Happy Sunday. Happy, we almost out of October day. Happy full moon. Happy, 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 happy. I'm so glad to be back in our space Sunday at 1 o'clock, where we get to meditate on some things this year. We have chosen the year of the inner child. Right now, we are in the 35 to 65 developmental stage. Many of us are living in that stage right here, right now. Thank you for your patience. Last week, I had no voice. This week, it feels like I may not have a voice again. I don't know what's going on with my body, but certainly the change in the weather here in the little tiny state of Delaware, it was 80 degrees yesterday. I'm not quite sure what it is right now, but I did declare that by Monday, everyone was going to be sick because this unpredictable weather is creating havoc on our sinuses and other things. So, happy Sunday to you all, whether you are watching live or through the replay. I appreciate your presence. I appreciate all of the well wishes from last week and the encouragement. And so, having this overwhelming urge to lean forward, um, spiritually speaking, I have to believe that means we are going to lean into our topic today, which is revelations and revolutions. And so I'm going to, of course, read a definition. I'm going to ask you um, to think about some things that have been revealed to you in this developmental age range. Because when we get to this point in life, things start to become clearer. We may find out about particular things. We may have to face particular truths. The last time we talked about truth and faith. And so this is in some ways a continuation of that discussion. Hello, happy hope and victory. Happy Sunday to you as well. And you had a question, how to overcome my fear of public speaking. You've been struggling as long as you remember. Here is the thing, you posted this question in a public forum. So, getting to the root of the public speaking, um, we might be able to hit on that today. Because maybe there are so many different things going on, and you're thinking it's one thing, and it could be a bunch of different things. But you were able to say this in a public forum. So you halfway there. I hope you see it that way. You are halfway there to the revelation of what could be going on with your fear of public speaking. And for those of us who have to do public speaking, I would like to speak for all of us. Doesn't mean that you don't do it without fear. I'm terrified every time I do this. But I don't focus so much on the fear. I focus more on the purpose and the intention. And sometimes the purpose and the intention is so overwhelming that the fear has to take a back seat and sit down. Um, and so we may hit on a couple of those things, but I'm glad you asked that question because it'll put in my mind to refer back to it as we talk about revelations, as we talk about revolution, because that in itself, you asking the question about something that you have been struggling with for as long as you remember is a revolution. It's revolutionary. And I hope that you can see it that way. I hope you see the power behind it. I hope that you can see that because you have declared it in an open forum, it is now in the ether, and that an answer is coming. May not come today, may not come tomorrow, but it will be revealed to you. And that is actually what revelation and revolution is about, what we're talking about. When we get to this age in our lives, 35, 45, 55, 65, things start to look vastly different than they did in our 20s, than they did in our teenage years, and certainly when we were adolescents. I don't know about y'all, but now I know when I was younger, all I kept saying is, I can't wait till I have my own money, my own car. I'm going to do whatever I want, not recognizing that adulthood comes with a whole lot of other stuff with it. But when you're younger, you think adulthood is the answer to everything, that everything is going to be figured out that all problems could be solved, that whatever you're feeling as an adolescent, as a teenager, you're not going to feel that way as you get older, only to realize that it's more intense. Those teenage problems are still there. Those teenage challenges, I should say, are still there. They're just at a different level because now, as an adult, the expectations of maturity and all of those other things have a greater impact in how we feel about ourselves. And so, if you also see me moving, it's because I'm sitting on a chair that can go up and down. And so, I'm just feeling like I should be moving. And so, I'm going to go with it. And so I'm going to go down a little bit so my feet are firmly planted. As you know, here on Mama Meditations, we are very non traditional. It's really not even a meditation in the sense of the traditional way of meditating, but it is something for you to meditate on. How often do mother figures drop wisdoms, pearls of wisdom that we have to meditate on? And so today we're going to talk about revelation and revolution. I'm going to read a definition, and this comes from the New Thought Dictionary about what revelation truly is. Because I think we have a somewhat understanding of revelation from the Bible, the book of Revelation, where all things will kind of be summed up, so to speak. It is the last book of the traditional Bible, and therefore many of us feel as though it's the end of the story. But we now know that that story continues on. So, a working definition for us: the act of the intellect becoming consciously acquainted with truth. And when we last met, we talked about truth, we talked about faith, and how there is an absolute truth, and then sometimes there's a truth that we lead ourselves to believe. But when you get to a point where your intellect is consciously aware with truth with a capital T, that is a revelation. It is something that may change the way you feel about yourself and others, your belief systems. Um, Revelation does not necessarily mean that it has to have an apocalyptic meaning or destruction or end. And I think we are predisposed to believe that if certain truths are revealed, that somehow it's going to create this horrible, horrific change in our life, which is why so many people avoid the truth, which is why so many people don't want to read the last book of the Bible, because for some, it can be very scary to know what the future holds or what the future may look like or what might be included in the future. Is too much for some of us. And so we avoid revealing things and therefore avoid the truth. And if you avoid the truth in your life, then how can you live a life that is without limitation, without balance, and authentic? Um, Last time we met, I talked about Kerry Washington, the actress. She has a new book out. And in that book, she revealed that her parents revealed to her that she was born based upon a surrogate, IVF. And if she had had that information earlier in her life, things would have made sense. We don't know that to be true. We always want to tell the story that, oh, if I had known then what I know now, my life would be different. Doesn't mean that it would be better. Doesn't mean that it would be worse. Doesn't mean what we think it means. However, she also mentioned that having that truth revealed now makes things make sense, where she does not have to feel so badly about her past because she never felt connected in particular ways. And I would imagine if you had in your mind a story about your birth history, about your lineage, and then you found out that it wasn't what you thought it was, some things would make sense. If you've ever watched the program with Dr. Henry Louis Gates, where he does the DNA and genealogy of celebrities, and the faces where people thought, oh, I thought I was Italian, and then they find out they have absolutely no Italian blood in their bloodline, or I had no idea that my family, participated in slavery, or I had no idea that, I was born to free people. Like, all of these things become revealed, and you have that look of, wow, this means so much to me that I didn't know I needed this information, because now I can make sense of some things in my life. So revelation does not always have to be some destructive, method of you learning the truth. Sometimes, though, we got to be torn apart. Sometimes things have to be ripped apart in order for us to see the truth. And when we get in this developmental stage, the truth about love, how many of us got to 35, 45, 55, only to discover that our definition of love was not what we thought it was? Maybe a marriage is ending. Maybe you haven't found yourself in a marriage where you just knew you would be married by now. Or maybe the marriage that you in is greater than you ever thought possible. Your career. Some people have an idea of a measure of success. And then when that is not realized, you start to recognize that success may have another meaning that might be revealed to you. Or we are in this weird stage of, if you have adult children and you have aging parents, you're not quite sure where you fit in both of those responsibilities. I want to take care of my kids, but they're really not kids, they're adults. I want to be there and take care of my aging parents, but they still want to maintain their independence, and I don't know what that looks like. This age range reveals a lot of truths that we may not be willing to face. Death is certainly something that we have to face, and that becomes more real as we get older, as our friendships die, as people actually die, and as the things that we dreamed and hoped for may also die. We have to face the truth. We have to have those things revealed to us. Some of us go kicking and screaming where we don't want to see what the truth is. But you might have to have the truth blown up in your face in order for you to start to recognize how that leads to a dramatic and transformative change in your life. How many individuals, after being married for a long period of time, and then now you have to figure out who you are, raising children, they get to be adults. They don't need you as much as they used to need you. Now you got to figure out who you are. Again, your career may be coming to an end, or maybe you have to change careers where you thought you were going to be in that thing to retirement, and now you've got to figure out something else. Now you got to pivot. When these things happen in your 40s and your 50s, it could throw you for a loop. And certainly when the entire world shuts down and you go through 3 years of COVID and you thought you had seen all, heard all, and experienced all, and here you are now experiencing something that you could not have even dreamt about, it shows you the truth of who we actually are. What's meaningful to you? I said to myself the other day, the things that used to have a great meaning and impact in my life don't seem to hold that level of importance anymore. I don't need to go to everything. I don't need to see everyone. I don't need to experience some of the things that I used to die to experience. Oh, I want to go to that concert, or I want to go to this, and that is starting to wane for me, not because I've lost joy in those things, but because the real truth is they're not as enjoyable as they used to. There is something to be said about leaving your house in the morning and coming back at the end of the day unscathed, unharmed, not traumatized, and getting in your own bed and saying, thank you that I was able to make it through another day. There's something revolutionary about that. If we look at the way that our world is right now, it is revolutionary for us to make it home safely without having, some mental or emotional challenge happen to us throughout the day. There's so much information that we are processing. It is almost revolutionary for us to be centered, calm, grounded, and not get caught up in the craziness of the world. And so truth, and when you are ready to reveal particular truths to yourself, when you are open and willing to do that. Now, for the example that I gave earlier with Kerry Washington, I didn't read the details of her book, but it didn't seem like something that she asked about. It seemed as if her parents maybe got to a point in their lives, because they may also be in this developmental stage where they're like, you know what, I want to clean up my mess before I leave here. How many of us have experienced within our families people who want to tell stuff that they've been holding on for so long? They've been holding that information for so long, but now they are concerned about transitioning and they're ready to go on to the next part of eternal life, but they don't want to carry that baggage. They want the truth to be revealed, not always understanding the impact of how that, can happen to a family. And, particularly within the Black community, we love to hold on secrets, things being revealed, things that happen. And sometimes there's an argument and then stuff just comes out in a way that no one intended it to be revealed. When you have parties who are having conversations behind the back of someone else, and then seems like everybody knows this secret instead of the main party. And then when it's revealed, it's hurt, it's shame, it's guilt, it's regret. And so that is another reason why sometimes revelations or truth can be difficult for us to deal with. Sometimes people feel like they are the holder of a secret and their position is that everybody else is not ready for it. And I have never felt comfortable with that someone else holding information that may impact my life, or feeling as though they're doing me a favor by not telling me the truth. I would rather have a authentic truth than a made up story. And that happens in this age range where you get to a particular age and you're like, I'm seeing things differently. I'll give you an example. When my parents passed away, we, of course, my sibling, my brother and I had access to everything. Their papers, I don't know about y'all, but my mom had a file cabinet, my dad had a safe. Now we're privy to all of this information that we never dared look into. And one thing that I was interested in was my father's medical records. He was in the military, so let me tell you, every single thing the military does goes on a sheet of paper and it goes into your file. And so I'm looking through his medical records and things are being revealed about him that blew my mind. Things I never knew about my father, where he had traveled in his life, things that he had done. And it was starting to mess with me at one point. I'm looking at this man that I thought I knew and realizing I didn't know as much as I thought I knew. And so at one point, it was changing my perception of who my dad was and why didn't he tell me this? And why didn't I know this? And why wasn't this spoken about? And he was dealing with these things and never told us. And maybe that could have prolonged his life, whatever the story is that we come up with to make ourselves feel better, which absolutely has nothing aligned with the truth. The truth is that man had things in his life that I was not privy to, nor did I have to be privy to them. And so I had to get to a point where I said, this is a small part of who he was. There are conversations, experiences, connections, and decisions and choices that man made in his life that had absolutely nothing to do with me. So who am I to hold a particular perception of him based upon information that I'm just learning? I wasn't privy to the conversations. I wasn't there when they happened. I don't know what his state of mind was or what he needed to do to survive. So, who am I to judge him for some of the choices that he made in his life and some of the things that he did that probably impacted his marriage to my mother that had nothing to do with me? It took me a while to get to that point, but the reality is, he was my father. He did the best he could with what he had. And I have to stand on that truth that there are things about the people that we love that we may never be able to understand. But we have to come to a realization, just as we would with ourselves, that there are choices and decisions that we all make in our lives that other people are not privy to at that point in time. It may impact them, but they don't know what it felt like. They don't know what we were thinking. They don't know the positions that we were in when we made those decisions. And so they really have no right to stand in judgment. But it takes a lot of work and a lot of healing to get to that level of understanding about the truth. And one of the things about the truth that is difficult to hold, particularly when it impacts you greatly, is that you can't do anything about it. You can't change the truth. You can try to see it a different way to make yourself feel better, but oftentimes we change our perception of the truth to make ourselves feel worse. Why would we do that? It's very similar with the word revelation. When you hear, something is about to be revealed, people are like, I don't want to know. I'd rather be ignorant. I'd rather not know what is going on. I'd rather live with the fallacy than to have to face the truth. And if the truth is not present, then balance is not present. Authenticity is not present. Love really is not present. For those of us who have got to a particular age in our life and now we are redefining what love means, love doesn't mean that you're stupid and you don't know what's going on. Love means you have all the particulars that you need to make the choices and the decisions that are based from a framework of love instead of I'm just going to be ignorant of what's going on around me and hope for the best. How many of us have gotten into positions because we hoped for the best only to realize it's not sustainable? How many people get married knowing something's not quite right, but we're going to hope for the best? We're going to hope it resolves itself. How many people say yes to a job knowing they don't really want to do it, but we're going to hope for the best and hope that it works out instead of facing the truth? I don't need to be in this marriage. I don't need to be in this job. I don't need to be in this friendship. I don't need to be in this relationship. I don't need to be here because it's not truthful. I'm telling myself what I feel like I need to hear in order to do something that I know is not true to who I am. Now, that is a revelation. And oftentimes we get in this developmental stage and we start seeing things in that way. Like, I have not been telling the truth about how I feel. People keep asking me, how you doing? You okay? And I'm not telling the truth. If the truth is not present, then authenticity is not present. And if authenticity is not present, then where are you operating from? A lie. And how many of us, like I'm thinking about that quote from The Wire, if it's a lie, then we fight on that lie. How many people's lives have been ruined because we were operating from a lie instead of getting to the truth of what was going on? And so a revelation, which is the absolute truth, does not have to mean death and destruction. It can mean one of the greatest portals to you discovering your authentic self, your relationship with yourself, what it means to have stability in your mind, your mental and emotional stability. Because whether we recognize it or not, and as it said in here, a conscious understanding of the truth, wherever there's instability mentally or emotionally, there's a lie somewhere that you're either believing or somebody told you or you bought into. If the truth is not in it, then trust me, instability is going to follow. It's not sustainable. And it also limits our expression of life, the way in which we live our human life. When you're unable to connect with the truth, then you're unable to connect with the desires and hopes and dreams that are really living within you because you spend so much time and energy keeping the untruth alive, keeping the lie alive. I like it here. How many of us are about to drag ourselves to an environment tomorrow, Monday morning, and we got to convince ourselves with coffee, with cigarettes, or whatever else we're taking that I really like this job. I do. And how much energy are you spending trying to keep yourself from running out of that job and running towards the truth in your life? We do it. We do it. I watched my mother go to a job that she could not stand, and she did it for 25 years. And when she retired, she only had 2 weeks before she got sick. And it's my belief that that 25 years of being in an environment that you did not like contributed to her illness. We have to get really, really truthful about what lies do to us physically, spiritually, mentally, and emotionally. And anywhere there is not the truth, then there has to be a lie. No matter how you say it's a small lie, it's a little white lie, it's still a lie. And so for me, revelation is about healing. Revelation is a healing art. Being able to face the truth of who you are and how you see the world and your core beliefs and all of the things that come up in this age range, you should get a medal for it. If there's a part of you that wants to heal and wants to learn the truth about who you really are, it's a courageous thing. It really is. And so Hope and Victory started with asking the question, how do you overcome your fear of public speaking? Well, what are you afraid of? You have to get real and tell the truth about what is it that you are telling yourself, or what are you believing is the truth about you in public speaking? Do you think people are going to laugh at you? Do you think that you're going to stumble over your words? Do you think that you don't have anything of value to say? What is the truth about the lie that you are telling? And why do you have to speak in public? Is it something that you have to do? Is it something that you're telling yourself you have to do? These are all of the questions that if I were working with you, I would say, you got to get to the truth of why the fear is even present to begin with. Because if it is fear, what do they say? False examples appearing real. That may not be the exact quote, but fear is a lie. What is it that you are telling yourself about speaking in public and why you have been struggling for so long? Did something happen the first time you did it? Did something happen the last time you did it? These are all questions to ask yourself. And one of the things that I believe about the healing part of revelation, oh my goodness, she said she's already feeling anxious about your job tomorrow. Well, then, if anxiety is present, that means peace is not present. And if peace is not present, then truth is not present. So there's something there. Either there's something that you're thinking, something that you're feeling that is telling you, avoid that place or you're not going to be good. There's some kind of commentary going in, and only you would be able to determine what that commentary is. And so if you are like me, I'm trying to find one of my journals. There's usually one or something to write on somewhere within reach. I have to start writing. That's where I reveal the truth first to myself in my writing. Hey, how you doing? And so an exercise for you, Hope and Victory, and maybe for others, as we are getting to the place where we are revealing things about ourselves, start writing. What am I telling myself? What do I believe about myself? Why am I so anxious about this place that I have chosen to go to? Because it might be a job, but it's a job that you chose. They may have offered you the job, but you had to say yes. And it could be you said yes because the money was right, it was convenient. That's not the focus. What is it about that job that is making you anxious, or that is creating a belief in your head where you are experiencing anxiety? Say it that way so you don't that you don't take ownership of the anxiety. What is it that's going on in here or in here that is making me experience anxiety? I guarantee you that somewhere there is an untruth that you are attached to, consciously or unconsciously, that is creating the experience of anxiety in your body. And if your job is also tied to public speaking, I would be very interested into how you found that line of work when public speaking is something that you've struggled with. Somewhere in there is a testimony and a story of, this was one of my greatest fears, and yet here I am. Because the one thing about revealing the truth, there will be some type of major change in you or in your relationship with other things, other people, other places. Once you say, okay, I know what the truth is, you're going to look at things differently. You may perceive things differently, just as I gave in that example. Once that was revealed, those things that were revealed about my dad, and I started to look at him differently, The truth has now been revealed. Now that perception was changing my relationship with him. Now this man was already passed away and transitioned, but my relationship with him was changing in my mind now that truth was revealed. Now I could have taken that information and been bitter and been upset and say, "Oh, he was a horrible husband, he was a horrible father, and how could he have kept these things from us?" I could very well have done that. But I'm also going on this healing journey, and I don't want that kind of energy within my psyche. So how can I take this new information and allow it to free me? Because that's really what revolution is about, freedom. How can you take hope and victory, this information that you are going to gather, the truth about why you are experiencing anxiety, so that it frees you, so that it creates a revolution in your life, a major change in your life, a supernatural change in your life. Because remember, it is a revolutionary act for any one of us to be breathing, to be moving, to be in relationship with one another. Have you seen what people are doing to each other in this day and time? If you still want to be in relationship with people, that's revolutionary. If you want to heal the trauma that is present in your life, that is revolutionary. That is supernatural. That is otherworldly. And if you want to see it that way so that it contributes to your healing instead of contributing to your suffering, then you have to choose to see it that way. It's not easy. It takes a lot of time. You might go from one extreme to another. You may feel worse about yourself because you've revealed the truth before you feel better about yourself. That's all in the healing paradigm. It's not linear. I wish I could tell you that it's like, doing a magic wand and all things are happy, or like a sitcom where everything is, tied up in a bow by the end of the 30 minutes. It could take years for you to get to a place where you see things differently so that it contributes to your freedom and a revolution in your spirit than holding you hostage and contributing to your long suffering. Many of you who've been watching and who may know me personally, my family this week will be acknowledging the 10-year anniversary of my son and my children's brother death. He passed away 10 years ago on November 1st. And I am still sitting here as a revolutionary telling you that life is good, life is beautiful, and life is blessed. That event 10 years ago could have sent me into a bitter, suffering existence. I did not want that for myself, and I did not want that to be the legacy of my child. And so this spiritual path didn't come easy. It still doesn't come easy. I literally can sit here and tell you that life is wonderful and life is beautiful, and that is a revolutionary act because my heart is also breaking. But that's also an example of how dynamic we are as human beings, as spiritual beings having a human experience. All does not have to be doom and gloom, which is why I said, revelations in your life do not have to be destructive forces. It could lead to your greatest healing. And sometimes to get to your greatest healing, you have to be broken apart. But you also have to be willing to make a choice and say, is this going to break me down, or is this going to build me up so I can then build up others? And it's a daily choice, an hourly choice, sometimes a minute by minute choice. Am I going to suffer, or am I going to heal? Am I going to pay attention to how horrible things are in the world, or am I going to look for the beauty that God has created for all of us? That's a revolutionary act. When so many heinous things are going on in the world, that you can still see the world as a beautiful place to be in, that you don't get caught up in the madness, because what could happen is if we get caught up in the madness, then we contribute to the evil that is present. I don't want to be on that side. I don't want to be on that team. I would rather be on the team that is about healing and enlightenment and revolution for everyone, freedom for everyone, peace for everyone. And so when you decide that you are ready to have truths revealed to you, you also have to decide how am I going to carry that? And so what I call the forgiveness sandwich is the truth is revealed, and then I have to enter into a practice of forgiveness so that I can get to my revolution of freedom, of peace, of understanding of things in a different perspective. And so everyone's forgiveness sandwich is, of course, going to look different because everyone's truth is going to look different. Everyone's truth and how you come to it, hey, my love, how you come to that truth is going to be different. Again, some people have things revealed to them in a fit of anger. The family gets together and then someone says something, that's not even his baby. And then the record player scratches and everybody's like, what did she just say? What? Sometimes that's how things are revealed. Sometimes people have been holding on to things for so long and it's so heavy that they have to release it and things are revealed that way. Sometimes the revelation happens internally. Again, where you start to realize, I don't really like or love the things that I say that I've been liking or loving. I feel very differently about myself and about the world that I live in. But when that truth starts to happen, one of the things that you can do to support yourself is to enter into forgiveness. Before you start forgiving other people, forgive yourself. And that could look like I'm forgiving myself for believing something when my body knew better. For me, when there have been things in my past that I wasn't ready to deal with, I would color them in with bright colors and make it seem like, oh, it wasn't that bad. Oh, they didn't really mean it. I was able to do okay. Instead of telling the truth of that was horrible, they were horrible, it's still horrible. They never said sorry. We can allow ourselves to forgive ourselves for diminishing our pain. And I know sometimes we have to do that to survive. I know sometimes we have to do that in order to be in the presence of the people who have hurt and harmed us. Oh, my mom didn't mean it that way. Or my dad, he's got a lot going on. We do that. We diminish the impact pain has on us so that we can survive. And so maybe you start with forgiving yourself for that. I forgive myself for not allowing myself to feel the pain as intended. I forgive myself for putting a buffer between the truth and my pain so that I can make it day by day by day. I forgive myself for all of the times when was not vocal about how I felt or what I was thinking, when I remained silent. And I love, you know, the quote from Mama Zora that if you are silent about your pain, they will kill you and say that you enjoyed it. And so many of us have been so silent about the places where we hurt, and we have to forgive ourselves for that. Sometimes it's a learned behavior that goes all the way back to childhood, which is why we do this inner child work, so that as adults we can say, I forgive 6-year-old me who didn't know any better, who wasn't mature enough to understand that the things that were happening around them was not their fault, even though they internalized it. I can forgive myself for believing that people had the best of intentions for me when they didn't, and me believing it. How many of us have stayed in environments where we're like, this is going to get good at some point? This person is going to be the person that they say that they were. Now, their behavior does not indicate that they have any actual intention on being who they say they are, but I remain hopeful. We love to give people the benefit of the doubt. We're like, this thing gonna turn around. It just has to. If I'm better, if I'm nicer, if I'm more encouraging, then they are gonna turn it around. Forgive yourself for all of the times you believed that lie, that somehow your behavior was going to make it better for someone else, for them to be their best. On that one, I have to take a deep breath. I forgive myself for all the times that I thought I had to work harder so that someone else would be better. Whether that's in a relationship, friendship, work relationship. How many times did we tell ourselves, if I show up for this job on time, do my best, they will see how dedicated and loyal I am and they will reward me. If it was never their intention to reward you, you were working for nothing. Maybe for your own self satisfaction, but you have to tell the truth. Were you working for your own self satisfaction, or were you working to get a promotion, to get a raise, to get recognized? And forgive yourself for that. It's okay. I forgive myself for all of the time when I was thirsty for someone else's attention and recognition because I felt that was going to be more meaningful than me believing in myself. And so the forgiveness sandwich, once truths have been revealed, once you recognize, intentions were never pure, or your own expectations were built on something that wasn't sustainable, you can start to forgive yourself first. Hopefully, you start with yourself. Always start with yourself. When my group and I read All About Love last year, there was a passage, and I have my copy here. There was a passage that always stuck with me, and I'm going to read that now. Even small acts of forgiveness always have significant ramifications at a personal level. Even small acts of forgiveness contribute to one's sense of trust in oneself and the potential of others. They contribute to a human spirit that is fundamentally hopeful and optimistic rather than pessimistic or defeated. They contribute to knowing oneself and others as potentially powerful people who can choose to lovingly create versus seeing humans as basically selfish, destructive, and sinners. Because that's what forgiveness does. And sometimes we put that before the truth. We don't want to know the truth. We just want to give people the benefit of the doubt. We just want to see people the way we want to see them. Well, that's not authentic either. What's really supernatural is that you know the truth about people and you love them anyway. And that was the revolution for me. Once I found out particular things about my father, I still loved him anyway because it gave me freedom and it gave his spirit freedom to where now I can communicate with him as my ancestor. If I held on to that hurt from that revelation, I wouldn't probably even speak that man's name, let alone revere him. Oh my goodness. Yes. The hoping that other people will change is sometimes based in a lie and not the truth. So, what this is saying, and what I am saying, is that tell the truth first and then get to the forgiveness part. Sometimes we hide ourselves from the truth and we want to go right to seeing the best in people, and we wind up getting hurt over and over and over in the process. You want to know what real peace is, you know the truth about somebody, and you still forgive them, and you can still love them. That's supernatural. Where you know somebody might be a low down dirty dog and you love them anyway. And I've been saying recently to people, I love everyone. I may not love their behavior because I'm now consciously aware that there are conversations and experiences that I am not privy to. When I'm trying to figure out why people do the things that they do, I'm never going to figure that out because I haven't lived the life that they lived. I haven't experienced the things that they have experienced. Even if I can stand in judgment of their behavior, I know like that just like me, they are human. And there are things that I do that other people will never understand why I do them. And I ask not to be judged on who I am as a person, but you absolutely can judge my behavior. If I'm doing something that impacts you, that hurts you, call me out on my behavior. But if you can't do it in love, I'm not going to receive it. I'm not going to hear it. And that is just being human. When people are ready to criticize you and they're like, you shouldn't be doing this and you shouldn't be doing that, the first thing you think is, I got to defend myself. But if someone offers correction with love, you're more likely to hear it from that place. That is a beautiful statement. I forgive myself for hoping they would value me if I did this or that, or if I changed. Yeah, we got to forgive ourselves for that, those times. And hopefully, as you mature in age and your mental and emotional intelligence, you get to a point where you recognize and realize that your behavior, while it is great for you to be aware of it, is not going to be the catalyst for someone else's decision to change. It might contribute in some way. Like I'm thinking about that program, Intervention, where people have to sit around and say to the addict, "I'm not going to give you money. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that if you continue to use," in the hopes that that would be enough for them to change their behavior. If they don't ultimately make the decision to change, that change is not going to be sustainable. And how many times do we fall for the okey doke where we're like, I'm not going to speak to you anymore unless you change? The person changes temporarily, but it's not sustainable because they have not made the decision to intend to change. So we have to forgive ourselves for all of the energy that we may have expressed, changing ourselves, hoping and praying that it would institute a change in someone else. Free yourself from that with telling the truth. People change when they intend to, people change when they want to, people change when the truth is revealed. And they make a conscious decision and effort to change. There's a whole lot of talking about changing and healing, and I'm doing this, I'm doing these things, but are you being the thing that you say you are? I have said numerous times, you can meditate, put your crystals out for the full moon, burn your sage, and do all the things. But if you are not consciously changing internally, changing your thought patterns, changing your behavior, then you are just acting. It's just an act. And it's not a true revolution of your spirit. I absolutely can tell you I have had a revolution in my spirit where I can see things differently. And I'm so grateful. But it took a while to get there. But it did not come about until I was ready to forgive myself and then forgive other parties. It is supernatural to forgive people who have hurt you. It is equally supernatural to forgive yourself because you participated in trying to make it better or holding people, at bay. I said to someone the other day, it's very easy to say that peace is the way you live your life when you've cut everybody else off. Because now you're living in isolation, in limitation. It's easy to say, "Oh, I got all the peace that I need. I don't talk to nobody. I go to work. I come home. I don't involve myself." Well, you've built yourself a nice little prison. It's easy to say you're at peace when you're doing things to cut people off. It's supernatural to say you at peace and you still involved with people on a day-to-day basis and they're not causing you mental and emotional disturbances. Where you are able to let people be who they are, as unstable or as they may be, but you have a peace within you. That's a revolution. When you have made a decision that the changes in your life are going to align with love and truth, and not telling myself what I need to hear in order to make it day by day by day. I just saw a meme where someone said adulthood is just making it day by day by day. What type of existence is that? Where we're like, I just want to make it through Monday. I just want to make it through Tuesday. And I know because I'm one of the I Love Friday crew, but if you're living, as they say, living for the weekend, because that's the only time you get peace, then you may be due for a revolution in the way that you are living your life. Your relationships with yourself and with others might need some shaking up, might need a whole lot of truth revealed to you so that you can begin the forgiveness process and live with that freedom. If not, you can be running from pillar to post trying to find it, and all the while, it's within you. You have to go within and reevaluate what is meaningful to you. And as you are writing down those things, like what is meaningful when you are feeling uncertain, you are not connected to what is meaningful to you. So get about the business of figuring out what is meaningful to me now. It may not be the same when you were 25, even when you were 35. Life looks different. And if you're still hanging on and holding on to things from your past, hoping that that is going to give you the satisfaction, or living through other people, how many of us have children and try to live through our children, try to get them to do the things that we're not able to do in our lives? I only went this far, son, you're going to go even further. I was only able to do this much. I want you to do so much more. It is a noble thing to say that to your children, but to make them hostage to your unrealized dreams and expectations is not fair. And then we may have a generation of young people who get to this age and stage and say, you know what, I never wanted to do any of that. I just wanted to please my parents. I just wanted to make them happy. I wanted to make everyone else in my life happy at my expense. And that is something that we learn in childhood. Children learn very early on that their job is to stay out of the way and not be an inconvenience, and to make the adults pleasurable, to have, make it a pleasurable experience for them to be around. The baby is crying. We got to stop that baby from crying. The toddler is having a tantrum. We got to stop that toddler from having a tantrum. The teenager is acting up. We got to stop that teenager from acting up, because we don't want to deal with the inconvenience of someone else's expression. So children learn very early on to be agreeable to whatever is pleasurable to the adults, because heck, they in charge of the feeding, the clothing, making sure that there's a stable, roof over our heads. And then we get to be this age and we're doing all of this inner child healing, because we realize that we haven't been living in our truth. We've been living in the truth that was created by someone else for us. And now we are starting to have these revelations of, I didn't really like that to begin with. I didn't want to do that. This is what I want to do. And I hope that you are in a place in your life where you have the freedom to say those things to yourself. I am going to engage in the experiences that I desire because it feels good for me and because it makes my heart sing and soar. And so that I forgive myself for hoping they would value me if I did this or that, or if I changed. I think there are so many young people who would find value in that statement, because we have a lot of young people and some who, emotionally may not be at a particular developmental age, who have been living their life hoping that others will see some value in it and deem them worthy of love. And so creating a forgiveness sandwich for yourself where you start to reveal those types of truths, where you may not be happy in particular areas of your life, and you're willing to see why. You're willing to ask the question why. Where you may not have been, experiencing the success that you would love to experience, and you start asking yourself why, and start forgiving yourself. And so I second that hope and victory. I forgive myself for hoping they will value me if I did this or that, or if I change. I forgive myself for believing when other people told me I didn't have any value without them. I forgive myself for believing that I had to jump through hoops and set my hair on fire for people to notice me. And I forgive myself for those times when I was so disconnected from my truth that anxiety and depression found their way in my experience. You're so welcome, my dear. Entering into a forgiveness exercise, again, it's not going to happen overnight. It may be something that you need to do on a daily basis. Like, what do I need to forgive myself for today? That time that I was really short with my coworker because I'm irritable, for recognizing and realizing nobody has held my hand in a while. And my mind, my body, and my spirit is missing the touch of another human being. And so I'm walking around here irritable, angry, frustrated, and upset, and I'm taking it out on other people. Let me forgive myself for that. Let me forgive myself for all of the times that I felt like I needed to deny who I truly am for someone else's comfort, going along with what they said because I thought I needed them more than I needed myself. I forgive myself for the times where I thought a relationship was going to solve all of my problems and that I forgot about the most important relationship, which is the one that I have with myself. And so I'm grateful that in this week of acknowledgement of death, that I can still speak life 10 years later. I would never be able to express how missing my child affects me, but I can tell you that what it has done is provided the space for me to have a supernatural occurrence in my life where I want to love more, where I want to give more, where I'm more appreciative of the love that surrounds me and not limiting those experiences in my life. Yesterday, I got loved on so much yesterday that I came home and crashed. You ever been loved so well that you can't do anything else? I had a group of women who fed me, who showed me how to do things that I didn't know how to do before. I was able to spend time with my beloved. I was out and about, and strangers were saying beautiful things to me. And I, in turn, was saying beautiful things to them. Yesterday was such a beautiful, loving day that by the time I got home, I was like, this is, it's never too much love, but it was so much that all I could do was rest. And so I'm grateful that at a period of time where I could be under my bed, boohoo crying, and tearing off my clothes in despair, that I am loving and that I'm able to do this and that I'm able to see virtually at least people that I love. I am here to always tell you that the way the world is or the way you believe it to be does not have to be. And just as it says in All About Love, we can still lovingly create and not see each other as destructive, selfish, and full of sin. That is not how I view the world, even if the world is revealing some of those things right now. Sometimes those things have to be revealed in order for us to get to a revolution where major changes take place in all of our lives. And so I'm hoping that we are making choices that align with our healing instead of the suffering, because then we contribute to the suffering in the world. And so all this week, you, Hope and Victory, Marissa, Keita, and anyone else watching either live or through the replay, think about what truth you are willing to tell yourself, that you are willing to forgive yourself for, so that you can begin a revolution of freedom in your own life. Free yourself from the bondages of the illusions of things that are not true. I hope you are willing to do that for yourself. And I hope that you recognize that it may not be your responsibility to do that for others, but because you are doing it for yourself, it may encourage or inspire someone to do it for themselves. It is not our job to create all of these revelation in other people's lives. It is your responsibility to tell the truth in your life that might impact other people to do the same. I love you. I hope that this has been helpful. There are some more changes that are going to be coming with Evolving Spirit Wellness. Look out for that. I'm still in this process of regulating how my spiritual services are going to land in the ether. And so I'm grateful for your patience. I'm grateful for those of you who sent me well wishes last week. And I know that that will continue. I love you bigly. I love you greatly. And I hope that there is a beginning of a revolution in your life, a major change in your life. And if I can support you through that, let me know. I love you guys. Have an amazing rest of your Sunday.